Hello, everyone out there at the Learning Project that's listening to this meeting. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about important forms used in the classroom. So, the objective of this course is it's going to basically be focusing around, can you identify hazards in and out of the classroom, and also identify what forms are needed to document an activity or an incident. So let's start off with the staff checklist approach. What you need. So, first thing I want you to remember is when you first come on board, you will need a to bring in some certain documentations. And there is a staff checklist that is located in the classroom portal that actually goes through all of the different forms that you can use um, within early childhood education, especially starting off as a new teacher. The second thing that you'll see is the orientation checklist. This is a checklist that is basically going to cover a ton of different areas that you need to have training over, or at least a conversation. You'll sign an initial and date it as well. The last thing that you need to remember is the professional development training. So some people actually have a professional developmental form, and it actually will allow you to document the hours that you have completed for the year. So in Washington State, you are required to do 10 hours of professional developmental training hours, also known as STARS training, a year. If you are brand new to the field and you have never worked within early childhood education, you will be required to complete this thing called the 30-hour STARS training. Now, this is the basic fundamental information that you need in order to work with children within early childhood education. And so in the classroom, you will see these forms, and that is what they are used for. The staff checklist, I just also want to note, it's a great little intro checklist for people to use when they need to know what they need to bring in for their first day of work. The second type of forms that I would like to go over is outside classroom approaches. So, first thing that I would like you to know is that a lot of centers do have inside and outside maintenance checklists. Basically, this checklist will allow the teacher to look over certain parts of the classroom or the outside play yard to ensure that there are no hazards, or if something's broke that needs to be fixed, they can actually document that and get a work order in. The second thing that I want you to keep in mind is the evacuation plan. So, evacuation plans should be posted by your doors. Basically, it tells teachers, anyone who is looking at it, how to get out of the building safely. So, and basically where to go if there is a fire drill or if there's a fire, or where do you go if you need to evacuate off site. The next form that you'll see within this course is the first aid checklist form. I think this is actually really good. A lot of times people are not sure what they should have in their first aid bags. And so this allows them to actually have a checklist so that they can keep note of what they have and what they need. The last portion that I want to go over with you guys is the illness log. Now, there's two different types of logs that I would like to talk to you about. There's an illness log and an accident log. Some people just combine the illness log and the accident log together. They just put it all on one. Basically, after you write a incident report, so a child gets hurt, they get a scrape, you write an incident report. Once you have that incident report signed or notified by a center director or someone on management, then you take that information and you log it onto an illness form. So, this is actually a really great way to keep track of the different accidents that are happening. Sometimes you can actually use it as a documentation tracker. So, if you're seeing that a child is getting hurt quite a bit on a certain toy, that is how you would basically be able to locate that information. Licensing in some states will request that they see the illness logs or the accident logs. And so I really try to make sure that everyone is aware that they need to do the illness logs and the accident logs after they finish writing an incident report. The next portion that we're going to go over is the approach to medication. So let's say that someone says, my child is sick and I would like them to have medication throughout the day. So, first thing that you're going to do is you're going to, let's say this child has a temp or something like that. and you write an incident report. You're going to go through that same process, have your center director or management look over that. Once they've given you the okay, they may call home and say, hey, so and so has a really high fever. Say that that family takes them to the doctor. The doctor says, your child has an ear infection, and that's why they have a fever. So I want you to remember that that child, because they have a fever, they will have to be out for 24 hours until they are completely fever free. Once they have been fever free for 24 hours, then they will be able to come back. So let's say that this child ends up coming back because that we know that they have a ear infection the next day. It's been 24 hours. The parent wants you to give antibiotics to the child throughout the day, maybe at 12 p.m. They're going to fill out a medication authorization form, which basically goes over all of those details. It's going to ask, what time do we need to give it? How much? Is there any side effects when they took it? Who's giving it to the child? Um, any directions that need to be taken about giving that medication. So that is what the medication authorization form is. The second part is the medication report. So this is the sign off that goes with the medication. Okay. So the medication will have a sign off of basically who gave the medication and what time they gave the medication. So you want to make sure that you don't get those two mixed up. You have the authorization, which is signed by the parents, and then you have the medication, which report, which is basically the person that's giving the medicine, who gave it, what time, all that good stuff. The next thing that I would like to talk to you about is classroom approaches. So, the first thing that I want you to remember as far as a health and safety matter, daily attendance forms. Some people use hand forms where they just write it in, some people use electronic attendance forms. It's totally up to you how you'd like to go about that. But I would highly suggest this because it's going to help you to make sure you keep your kids safe and you have proper documentation in and out of your classroom about what time a child leaves and comes. Um, Again, I want to make sure that you have an illness log or an accident log form. We went over that. But I also want to talk to you about behavior logs. So this is a form that you can use to document a child's behavior. A lot of teachers sometimes they're trying to figure out what's going on with the little one, and they have not been able to figure out what they can do, how they can do certain things. And so this gives you a opportunity to document a child's behavior and be able to present that to the family. This also will help if there's like a reoccurring behavior at a certain time of day. There is a podcast that we will be posting about behaviors and talking about sometimes behaviors are induced because of a lack of nutrition and things like that. So it's pretty interesting, but I do want you to keep that in mind. So, and behaviors could be positive or negative that you want to document. So please remember that. Don't always just go to the negative. The last thing that I would like to go over in this section is the fire drills. So a fire drill should be done quarterly, and it will be documented typically in the front of the center. The next thing I would like to go over with you is the type of forms that are used in the health area. So, first of all, an allergy form or a chart of some sort should be documented in the classrooms and should be posted somewhere so that when people are coming in serving food, they actually will have this form available. Also, it is very helpful to the cooks or the nutritionists at your center to make sure that certain kids don't get certain foods or they prepare foods a certain way in order to meet certain allergy needs. Once you have a child in your center that has certain allergy needs, one of the things that you want to consider is putting on an individual health plan. An individual health plan is a form that goes over all of the ins and outs of what a child needs. For example, if a child has an EpiPen, this is actually going to be the form that you'll need to fill out. What time do you, if something goes wrong and you need to give this EpiPen, when do you give it? How do you give it? Have they gotten training on how to give give the EpiPen to the child, or if it's something that they do themselves? It just really depends on what type of kiddo and how old they are and all that stuff. Most of the time, the adult is required to do the EpiPen. So please remember that. Do not put it in a child's hand and have them do it themselves. Again, it depends on the state, it depends on the situation. There's some kids with diabetes, and their doctor wants them to do it themselves, or they prefer to do it themselves. It really just depends. But I know in the state of Washington, medication is required to be given by an adult. So the next thing I want to make sure that we go over is a feeding procedures for infants and toddlers. One of the things that I think we probably miss the most is creating a plan for infants and toddlers, some type of feeding plan, so that the teacher, the parents, everyone's all on the same page with the situation, so that they know exactly what the feeding plan for their little one is moving forward. So, what are your next steps now that we've listened to this video? What do you do? So, first of all, you need to watch this video, which you just did. Congratulations. Second thing you need to do is explore all the documents that are in the second section below this video. And last, you're going to complete the quizzes at the end, and then you'll move forward. I want to thank you guys for taking the time out to listen to this short video lecture. I hope you guys have a great day. And remember, you could do anything that you put your mind to. Sending you strength and love. Stephanie Courtney here at the Learning Project. Thanks so much.